if you've got a Bible with you, we're going to be in Luke chapter 14 today. And, you know, we're at the end of 21 days of prayer, and I taught this passage of Scripture back in July, knowing it would take me 2 weeks. So I did 1 week in July. We're doing 1 week here at the end of August. And so a lot of what I taught back in July is a lot of it today is application. And so if you missed it in July, go back and watch the table, part 1, and you can catch up on the teaching and really dissecting this passage a lot, because today is primarily going to be a lot of application. And the thing I love about this passage of Scripture is it's about food. And see, so it's been 21 days of prayer, so I've been fasting and just eating just one time a day. And for the first couple of weeks, I just ate, this is gross, isn't it? A can of chicken. That's gross, isn't it? That's what I had at night. I would have a can of chicken about 9 o'clock. It's about 360 calories by the time I'd stir some mayonnaise in there, because mayonnaise makes everything better, as does peanut butter and cheese. That's a whole other story. So, but anyways, I've been trying to figure out where I'm going to go eat tonight after night of worship. And right now I'm thinking about going to, have you been to Waffle House and eaten in the shower curtains? Have you been there? Because they have shower curtains. It's amazing, isn't it? You ought to go, right? Because they have shower curtains on shower rings hung up between each booth. So it's like eating in the shower with no water. So I may go eat there tonight. And, double cheeseburger, double hash brown. I hadn't eaten in a while. Triple hash brown scattered well, I think is what we'll do tonight. Or something, but I'll figure something out. But if you're online, hey, what's your favorite place to eat? How about putting that in the comments real quick? Where is your favorite place to eat? And if you could go somewhere and get something to eat, what would you get? Just kind of curious, thinking about that for just a minute. So in Luke chapter 14, Jesus is at this banquet, and he uses this opportunity. Jesus does this all the time. He takes this opportunity to say, hey, let me teach you something. And so with the people who are around him, the disciples, he says this in verse 12. He says, he said also to the man who had invited him, when you give a dinner or a banquet, do not invite your friends or your brothers or your relatives or rich neighbors, lest they also invite you in return and you be repaid. He said, look, you don't just invite somebody to show up thinking, okay, now they owe me and they'll have to invite me to their house. And this was kind of shrewd networking, and people still do this today. But even 2,000 years ago, it was, look, let's invite rich and influential people, people who are in a good social position, people who maybe own businesses, who can provide jobs, whatever. Let's invite those people to this gathering, and when we invite them, then they're going to feel obligated to turn around and invite us back. So, and that way you get a chance to go eat better food, a better place, and you kind of are doing things for yourself. And he says, but don't do that. He says, instead, he says, when you give a feast, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind. Now, this is a little different in America. See, sometimes, and not all the time, because some of you have disabled family members, and so you know what it's like to go, and sometimes people look at you a little differently or avoid you or whatever, but especially 2,000 years ago, you talk about the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, those were the outcasts of society. And people thought, well, there must be something wrong with them because God must have cursed them or didn't, or not loved them or just didn't like them, because why would he do that? And many times you go into another country, even now, and you see the level of health care that they have in other countries, and you see the crippled, the blind, the lame that are almost reduced to begging because there's nothing else that they're allowed to do in some countries and some societies. And so, but really what he's talking about is invite people, have people in your life who are not like you. People who are poorer than you. Maybe they're poor in spirit. Maybe they're not mentally as sharp as you are. Maybe they're not as emotionally stable as you are. Maybe they don't have a relationship with Jesus. But are you inviting those kind of people into your life, or just the people that it's easy to be comfortable with? Just the people that you enjoy, that you like, they think you're funny, they think you're great, they can't get enough of you? Or do you invite people that into your life who are in a different place in what's going on in their lives. And it says, if you do this, it says, you will be blessed because they cannot repay you, for you will be repaid at the resurrection of the just. So real quickly, and I'm just jumping in here real fast today without unpacking this a lot, but don't invite people for yourself, invite people for them. You're not doing this for you so that you feel good and you get the pat on the back and people say, hey, you're a great person, great food, great house, love everything here, you're amazing, so come to my house next week. But no, instead you're saying, I'm doing this for them. And you may never get anything offered back to you in return. That's what a servant does. As Christ followers, as servant leaders, that's what we do. So I just got to give you a warning, because what we're going to talk about today, for some people in the room today, for some people who are watching online, you're going to see this and hear this, and it's going to be more than a paradigm shift. It's going to be a change in the way you look at life. Because if we're Christ followers, we're going to say, hey, this is not just a good idea, not something nice, not just a suggestion, not just a, oh, what if, but no, this is a new way of doing life than what we're used to. For most of us, not for all of us, but I would guess that over the last 20 to 40 years, if you've been in church more than about 5 times, this is going to be a shift in the way that you've thought about things. So let's keep going. So in verse 25, it says, now he's left, right? He's left. So Jesus is not teaching, right? So he's moved on. He's no longer at the banquet. And he says, now great crowds accompanied him. And he turned and said to them, and here's the thing. Check this out. Great crowds, big crowds. Okay? And then what does Jesus start doing? Well, we used to say he was thinning the herd a little bit. You know what I'm talking about? Sometimes Jesus would say something, and the people who were just marginal believers, casual observers, not so committed in their walk with Jesus, they said, tell you what, no thank you. I'll see you. I kind of like being around you, I like the miracle stuff, but when you're asking me to do something big time, I don't think I can do that. And so the crowds that followed Jesus started getting smaller and smaller, because it wasn't just about the show, it was about following Jesus. Which is something that should be easy for us to do if we say, Jesus, I'll give you my life, because he's given us eternity in heaven. We go, yeah, this is easy. But then sometimes we go, I don't think so. So this is an opportunity for us today. He says, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Now, this word hate is pretty strong. I have friends who say, I never use the word hate because it's so offensive to people. And here's the thing about this word hate. It doesn't mean literally hate someone, that you should not hate your father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters. That's not what it means. Because you say, why is Jesus talking about hate? He's always talking about love. And why all of a sudden he's talking about hate? Well, this is a comparative term. And I'll use the same illustration today that I used a month ago. And I'll say it this way. If someone broke into your home and you have a child and you also have a dog, and somebody breaks into your home and they have a firearm in their hand, and they have their child and the dog in a corner, and they turn around to you and they say, I'm going to kill either the dog or your child. Who do you want me to shoot? Everybody in the room goes, shoot the dog. Some people go, I don't even like dogs, right? But shoot the dog, because he's like, I can get another dog, I can't get another kid, right? And so it's not that you hate the dog, but you love your child so much more than you love the dog. So that's what he's talking about here. He says, you should love me more than anybody else. And that just makes sense, doesn't it? So sort of a metaphorical kind of question to ask this morning. I got 2 or 3 to ask you today. So the first one is, if your life could be depicted as a party. You know, sometimes we say life is like a roller coaster, ups and downs and twists and turns. But this morning, let's use this metaphor of a party. If your life could be depicted as a party, who would be on the guest list? Who would you invite? All right? So let's look at this in a couple places real quick. First, let's talk about career. Let's talk about work. So what about work? So how do you see your job, your career, your skill set? How do you see that as being something that can be used for the kingdom? So the first question is very simple as this. Do you look at your job or your skill set primarily as a way of enriching yourself or serving others? What's the purpose of that job you've got, right? What are you doing? Because here's the question I would ask you. How many of you would say that the job that you have right now, that you believe God set up that job for you? Anybody? That you believe God put you in the place you are right now? How about your own line? You want to throw a hand up? So yeah, the place I work, there's a set of circumstances. There was a conversation. There was one thing led to another, and it couldn't be anything but God that I ended up where I am. And so did God put you there in that place at this time just so you can make money? Or did God put you there because he had a higher purpose for you where you work? Because because actually we can serve other people and not just collect a paycheck. I got this quote from Martin Luther. It says, he's one of the early church founders. This quote is almost 500 years old. Well, it is 500 years old. It says, when we pray the Lord's Prayer, we ask God to give us this day our daily bread. How does he do this? When we say, Lord, give us today our daily bread, and there's a loaf of bread on the table. Is that how it happens? Well, it's possible. He did that with the children of Israel. Every morning they would walk out and there'd be manna on the ground. And so there was literal bread right there in front of them. But for us, Martin Luther says this 500 years ago, he says he does it by means of the farmer who planted and harvested the grain, the baker who made the flour into bread, the person who prepared our meal. And for us, we might add that there was a truck that drove it somewhere, that there was a wholesale distributor somewhere, that there was a banker involved most likely so that somebody could buy the bakery and could get things set in place. There was a food inspector somewhere to make sure that everything was done in a safe and clean manner. And there's all kinds of people in this chain just to get a loaf of bread on our table. And it turns out, I believe, that our job is a gifting by God to meet the needs of others, and we should see our jobs as gifts from God to bless others. So no matter what you do, you may have restrictions at your workplace about what you can say and what you can't say, and especially in the realm of politics and your faith, you may have some restrictions about that. I get that. But you also can take your job, your skill set, your abilities, and there's things that you can do for other people. Like if you're an attorney, you know what you can do? Of course, you can do pro bono work. Dentists, they can do free clinics, if you're a teacher, you can help a student who needs help that you're not even connected with. Maybe a neighbor's kid or someone that you come in contact with. There's all kinds of ways that we can take our jobs and our skill sets, and especially if you're a stay-at-home mom, which may be the hardest job on the planet, there are things that we can do to serve other people around us. And we got people who do stuff for us all the time, some of us, we love the barista at Starbucks because she is the dispenser of all things caffeinated, and she makes life better, right? And we like the guy at the drive-through window at Chick-fil-A who says, "Here's your sandwich, sir," and I put in some extra mayonnaise. And you're like, yes, you're a good man, right? But there's so many things that we can do. And so you got to ask yourself, the second question is, what are there ways your job can benefit the poor? Are there things that you can do that can help other people? And see, you don't have to be involved in a nonprofit to do this. And there's other opportunities, other ways to do that and say, hey, what can I do? How can I serve? Where can I go? And the next question is very simply, how can you leverage your job for the Great Commission? Because if God puts you there, there's a purpose for you being there. And so shouldn't we step into that? Shouldn't we walk into this thing and we go, whoa, Arthur, I got a question. Like, well, okay, what's your question? Because I know what you're going to say, so I'm not sure God has called me to do this. Well, I would argue that God has already called you to do this. And he said, but Arthur, I thought there had to be like some, this cloudy moment and everything kind of goes shifting in and out like this a little bit. And I look down in my bowl of Cheerios and it spells out, go to Afghanistan. I don't know about you, but the only thing my Cheerios have ever spelled out is, oh. That's it. And so, no, but here's what happened. When God called you to save you, he called you to follow him. When he called you to save you, he called you to tell other people. He said, Arthur, I'm not a preacher. You don't have to be. When God called you, he set you aside, gave you everything you need. Listen, he put you in the place where you are so you can have an impact in other people's lives. Life is not just about wake up, go to work, get some lunch, work some more, come home, do a couple things around the house, go to bed in this town at 8:30, go to bed insanely early, and get up and start again the next day and go, hey, it's the weekend, let's go somewhere. And, you go do something on Saturday, you do something on Sunday, and then you start all over again. No, there's more to it than that. I mean, don't you want your life to matter? Listen, yeah, I want my life to matter for my wife and for my kids and maybe one day grandkids and maybe great-grandkids. And I want to leave a legacy. But, I don't want it to be limited to my family. I really don't care if anybody ever puts a statue up of me after I'm gone, that anybody names a building after me, that somebody names a street after me. No, I don't care about any of those things. But what I really care about is I want to be in heaven and there be a line of people saying, hey, Arthur, I want to tell you thank you. Because Scripture says that the people that we have impacted here will come to us and thank us in heaven. I want something bigger than a dang statue. I want to make a difference in the lives of people that last forever. That's what I want to do. Matthew 4:19, Jesus says this. He says, and he said to them, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. That's all of us. Not just me, not just Bailey, not just Pete, not just Courtney. Not just some preacher on TV or on the radio or somebody's groovy podcast that you're listening to. All of us. 2 Peter 3:9 says, the Lord is not slow to fulfill his promise, as some count slowness, but is patient towards you, not wishing that any should perish, but that all should reach repentance. And the amazing thing about it is the work of the gospel has always been done by Christ followers, living all their lives in a way that points people to Jesus. In the ancient world, there were 3 church planting centers: Antioch, Alexandria, and Rome. And so when the church spills out of Jerusalem, it lands in these 3 areas. And we got all kinds of people that we find out about in the Bible, which is Acts chapter 11. It says some brothers started the church at Antioch. We don't even know who they are. Because when Luke is writing Acts, he says, you're never going to hear from these guys anyway. It's not important. But how many millions of people are telling them thank you in heaven, the guys that started the church in Antioch, where they were first called Christians? We don't even know who started anything in Alexandria. We find out in Acts chapter 28 that the church in Rome, again, was started by some brothers. And Paul shows up and goes, I didn't even know you were here, because he was like, I'm going to go start a church in Rome. And then he gets there and finds out, there's already a church in Rome. And, they're like, hey, you think maybe while you're here, Paul, you could write us a book? I don't know. Right? But see, God did not save you to sanitize you and put you on a shelf. He saved you to send you. God did not convert you to quarantine you. God converted you to commission you. So what are we going to do? I mean, how do you see your work? How could you use your skills, your abilities, your influence, your connections, your networking, your whatever? How can you leverage that for the Great Commission? Maybe it's mentoring someone. For somebody in here, maybe somebody watching online, you're a go-getter and you're a hard charger. And you know what you should do? You should get your family and get on an airplane and you should go do missions overseas, because you could get a job in another country and you could be reaching tons of people for Christ. Number 4, what do you see as being the primary purpose for the money you make from your job? Brother, I'm trying to retire. I'm trying to retire early. Awesome. Great. Is that the primary purpose for why God put you there? To see how much you can make for yourself? No, we say, God bless us. Bless us like crazy, but bless us so we can turn around and bless other people. So think about, how can you use the gifts and abilities that God has given you in your career? How can you use that to make a difference for him where you work and with the people who are around you, right? So the second thing, let's talk about home. Let's talk about home. I'll ask you this question. Are you including outsiders at your dinner table? Are you including the poor, the lame, the blind, the crippled at your dinner table? So here's the thing. Why do I say that? Because it's a risk to have a meal with somebody. It's one thing to say, hey, how you doing? Because see, if there's going to be a meal involved, and right now it's Corona season, so we're probably not doing meals inside. We might do a meal outside in the yard, in the driveway, in the cul-de-sac, right? But that means you're going to need to talk to them for an hour, hour and a half, and not a, hey, how you doing? What's your dog's name? Oh, really? That's a dumb dog name. I'd never call my dog that. Oh, did I say that out loud? Sorry. Right? And then you sort of move on. It's not the nod and smile behind your mask right now. It's the, you're trying to smile, and you're wondering if you're creeping people out because all they can see is your eyes. And you're trying to be friendly. And you're like, I don't know what to do. I got a mask on. So it's weird. It's different. It's Corona season. But are you got people that you're willing to spend time with that are different than you? So I want to commend a book to you. And I've never done this here. This is a book called The Gospel Comes with a House Key. Rosaria Butterfield wrote this book a couple years ago. And if you'd like a copy of it, we've got some for sale today at both of our campuses. And so you can pick it up out in the lobby if you'd like. If you'd rather get it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or whatever, you can do that. If you'd rather put it on a Kindle, I think that would be great. Or whatever reader that you might use. It's $15 if you buy it here. It's just cost recovery. It's $14.99. And so we round it up to $15 because we're just tight-fisted people like that. And we're trying to get an extra penny out of everybody, right? That's what you preachers want to do. I thought you were just trying to get more money. No. So, but here's the thing. Here's the story about this book, okay? Rosaria Butterfield, in the late 1990s, was one of the leading lesbians in the United States. She was a tenured professor at Syracuse University. She wrote the seminal paper on queer theory in the United States, still used today. So when you think of left-wing, crazy, wacko kind of person that you might think about something, somebody, homosexual agenda, I'm right, everybody else is wrong, that was her. Okay? And so in the 1990s, there was a men's movement in this country, and it was called Promise Keepers. And some of you will remember that. Some of you never heard of it. But it involved hundreds of thousands of men and who were getting together and trying to grow in their relationship with Jesus. And it really was a genuine movement that was sweeping through the United States for a period of years. They were getting ready to come to upstate New York. And so she was a little angry about it because they were completely opposite of what she believed, and because of her energy against Christianity, she wrote a letter to the editor of the newspaper. They published it. And she talks about that she got a huge amount of mail. And some of it was love mail saying, hey, I love what you're saying, Rosaria. You're right on schedule here. This is great. And some of it was hate mail. People like, how dare you? And she got one letter, though, that she kept reading over and over again. And she's like, I don't know what to do with it. And she says that, she put it in the middle drawer of her desk, and every now and then she would pull it out. And it was from a pastor and his wife, and they obviously did not agree with her, but they were very kind and loving toward her in spite of the things that she had said about Christianity, and said, would you come over to our house for dinner? Would you just come over to our house for dinner? And she didn't know what to do. And so after 5 or 6 weeks, she had talked to some friends because she kept pulling that letter out and reading it because she had never seen anything like it. And so a couple of her friends said, why don't you go? At least you'll gather some intel on the other side. And so she goes over to have dinner at this pastor's house with his wife. And assuming she's going to go over there and she's going to get into an argument and all this kind of stuff is going to happen, but she goes over there and just finds out, they just were going to love on her. And then they said, would you come back the next week? And so the next Sunday night she goes back. And then she goes back the next Sunday night because they keep asking, hey, will you come back? And so after a couple of years, she comes to know Christ. Now she has 4 children. She is two our adopted children, two our natural-born children. She's married to a pastor in Durham, North Carolina. And God has just completely changed her. And she says, so what makes a big difference is when we're willing to take people who are not like us at all and invite them into our homes. Or, because it's Corona season, invite them into our lives. Let's invite them into our lives, right? And she says this, she says, those who live out radically ordinary hospitality see their homes not as theirs at all, but as God's gift to use for the furtherance of his kingdom. Now, how many people here, you said a minute ago, you believe God put you at your job. How many people here believe God gave you your home? I love where I live. I have fantastic neighbors. I can walk in the backyard and I can fish. Right? We live at the edge of a lake. It's a beautiful view. We wanted a house with a big back porch because our last house had a big back porch. So did God give Lori and Arthur a house so that I can see the lake, so I can go fishing, so that I can go canoeing in the lake, so that I can sit on the deck with Lori and we can tell stories and laugh? Or did he give me that house so that that's part of it, but there's a bigger purpose there too? He gave me the house where I live, not all for me, but for the people who live around me. He put me there. And I could tell you the story. Listen, on the house we have right now, we went to closing 3 times. Lord will have to tell you the story about what happened with our house. But we know God wanted Arthur and Lori in that house. You probably could tell the same story. She goes on, she says, my prayer is that this book will help you let God use your home, apartment, dorm room, front yard, community gymnasium, or garden for the purpose of making strangers into neighbors and neighbors into family. And, you know, and so I'm reading here, and this is what she says a week looks like for her. She says, Sunday, I go to worship and fellowship, which includes a fellowship meal for church family at our house for 10 to 30 people on Sunday nights. Monday, sometimes delivers a meal to a neighbor in need. Tuesday, dinner, informal conversation, and prayer at our home with neighbors and church friends. Wednesday, prayer meeting at the church. Errands, maybe dropping off a gift to someone who has gone through a particularly hard week. Thursday, prayer walk in the evening with neighbors. Thursday is regular, like neighbor night. I'm just going to get out and talk to neighbors on Thursday nights. Friday, regular Costco run with an offer to pick up items for neighbors. An optional meal and fellowship with the neighbors. Saturday, optional meal and prayer with church members and neighbors. And you sit there and go, I want to tell you something. I can't do that. I think I run 120 miles an hour and that I'm the Energizer Bunny and nobody can keep up with me, but I can't keep up with her. That was what I thought when I first read that. And then I read through it again. I thought, you know what? No, I'm missing it. Here's the thing, is that everybody can do that. She's not doing anything on there that needs a special skill set. We can eat together. I already know how to do that. If somebody needs something, I can offer to get them something. I can be friendly. I can talk to people. I can be a good neighbor. I'm like, I can do this. And see, we have this confusion about hospitality, especially in the South. See, we think that Southern hospitality is hospitality, but Southern hospitality is not hospitality. I've got some good friends that are in town from Texas. They're from Abilene, Texas. So they got here on Wednesday night. Wednesday afternoon, I ran to Costco. I picked up some steaks, right? And I got there and I said, well, you know, I've been friends with these people for 25 years. And so, you know, there's USDA choice and there's USDA prime, and prime is a little better steak. So it was an extra $1 a pound for prime. I said, hey, we've been friends for 25 years. They're worth $4. Why not? So I splurged. I spent the extra $4. So we went home, and Lori had been working on cleaning the house all day long. I mean, it was like if the Pope had showed up, he would have gone, this is amazing. And I mean, it was just, and so what, but you know what that was? That was fellowship. Because we got all prepared for it, and we knew them, and they're good friends. And so we want everything just to be right, and we had great conversation. And so we got to have relationships with people who are believers. I mean, we sat at our kitchen table for hours talking. and just loved it. Went to bed feeling refreshed, encouraged, woke up the next day and like, wow, God, thank you for friends that we have known for so many years and that they're here with us. And that's okay, that's good. We need that. But Southern hospitality is really fellowship. What we're talking about, hospitality, is love of strangers. That's what the word literally means. It means I'm going to love people who are not like me at all. That's one of the marks of elders in the Bible, who are leaders at church. Say the elders should be hospitable. The elders should love strangers. And so when you see people who say, well, I want to lead at church, but they don't want to love people who are different than them, that should make you go, whoa, 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 I got a question. We have this fear of hospitality. We're afraid of what's going to happen to our house. What if somebody comes in and steals something? What if they break something? I opened this little curio cabinet yesterday morning, and this little thing that Lori and I got on our honeymoon fell out and broke. I feel like I was in a lot more trouble than somebody coming in our house and breaking something yesterday. I was like, oh my goodness. But no, it's not our home. It's God's home. He gave it to us. And would that be the attitude of Jesus? Well, I don't think they should come here because I'm afraid they might break something or steal something or do something. Or you say, well, what am I? I'm afraid for my children to be exposed to something like that. I'm afraid for my children to be around people who are not like us. I don't want them to have wrong influence. Really, is God that small? I'm much more concerned that our children would not be exposed to people who are radically different than they are. Oh, we have this performance idea about hospitality. Ooh, well, here's what everything's got to be perfect, and every couch pillow has got to be in the right place at the right time. No dust anywhere. Everything's got to be perfect. No, people who are far from God need to see how we live. And that everything's not always perfect for us, and that we struggle, and that our houses are not always pristine and perfect, and everything's clean. And actually, sometimes you come in the house and it's a mess. And sometimes it's a mess because we've had conflict in our homes. Let's be honest with people. She says this. She says, we sometimes forget that the Christian life is a calling, not a performance. Hospitality is necessary whether you have cat hair on the couch or not. If you have cat hair on the couch, here's the solution. Get rid of the cat. Nobody likes cats anyway. That's easy. People will die of chronic loneliness sooner than they die of cat hair in the soup. Or here's the thing, we're so busy. You know what happens with busyness? It destroys intimacy. And so we have no margin for hospitality. Like, I just don't have time for this. I don't have time to love people who are not like me. No, that means your priorities are out of whack. Get them back in whack. It says, practicing radically ordinary hospitality necessitates building margin time into the day. Time where regular routines can be disrupted but not destroyed. This margin stays open for the Lord to fill, to take an older neighbor to the doctor, to babysit on room for a family displaced by flood or a worldwide refugee crisis. Living out radically ordinary hospitality leaves us with plenty to share because we intentionally live below our means. It means, you know what? I've got to have some room in my budget to feed people once a month or so, because that'd be a good start. So I need to build a little extra grocery budget this month. And so maybe we don't go out to eat one night so that we have money to feed people who are not like us. See, the people who are far from God, they don't want to hear about Jesus anymore. They're tired of it. They've heard too many things. They've seen say one thing and do another. And that's why number one thing they're going to tell you is that I think Christians are just a bunch of hypocrites. And I always say, yes, we are. Everybody's a hypocrite. That's where we are. That's where we live. But look, our relationships must be stronger than our words for our words to be persuasive. And they've got to see us living and loving one another and living and loving Jesus the way that we're supposed to. That's why at Southcrest, our mission is to connect people to Jesus and to one another. That's what we do. And how is the big question. And so so tune in here with me for just a minute. How do we do this? Look, the church in general, we have really messed this up. And I will take full responsibility for it. because I've been part of it. Because here's what I have said. I've said this for more than 20 years. Bring a friend, bring a friend, bring a friend, bring a friend. And we're all just about how many people can we get here in a room on campus? And how many people can we get to watch online? And we measure success by saying, how many people can we get here? And here's what we've said. Hey, bring your friend who's far from God, have them sit right beside you. When they come to know Christ, you know what will happen? You'll understand the mission that we're trying to do for the very first time. And then this will be your opportunity to disciple that person who's just come to know Christ. The problem is nobody's ever discipled you. And you got no idea how to lead this person to grow in their relationship with the Lord because you don't know how to do it because all you've ever been told is come to church, come to church, come to church, come to church. And we can't disciple people from some old man standing on a stage screaming on Sunday mornings. That doesn't work. You know, maybe the worship here and the teaching here gives you a little shot of energy, a little push in the right direction for that week. But are people really getting discipled and growing deep in their relationship with the Lord by sitting and listening? No. It just doesn't work that way. And in the early church, what we did is we told people, go share Jesus with other people by loving them. Love the people around you. And what we did, and this is wrong, we said, we're going to take that out of your hands. Bring them here. We'll share the gospel with people because you feel uncomfortable doing it. And here's what we have to do. We have to give it back to you because otherwise it's not going to work. This was never a great long-term plan. It was a bad idea. It means that we all have the privilege and the responsibility of talking to other people, of building relationships with them, of loving them. And check this out. There are a lot of people who think that at some point, somebody's going to say, okay, here's the cure for the virus. And everybody's going to go and come swarming back to church. I don't think it's going to happen. I think the people who are marginally committed, who are here because, I should go to church because if I go to church, God will love me. Or God will take care of my family if I'll go to church. I don't think they're coming back anytime soon. I mean, years may pass before they come back. Because you know what? They don't have a relationship with Jesus in the first place. Because they were here for the wrong reason. And by and large, the people who are here right now are super committed. Hardcore, Jesus, I'm going with you. The people who are watching online week after week after week after week, super committed. The panic of, the virus is here and we're all going to die is over. And now it's like, okay, what happens? What's next? So how do we do this? How do we do this? Well, we have a strategy, right? And here's our strategy. You live somewhere. God put you there, gifted you there. Purpose that you would be where you are, where you live, in your apartment, your dorm room, your house. And you got people around you and you don't even know their names. If you know their names, you probably don't know a whole lot about them, but you see them all the time. You've already got things in common because you live in the same street. You live in the same apartment building. But they're strangers to you. And so what are we going to do? We're going to intentionally start moving through a process where we say, let's move from being stranger to being neighbors. And let's move from being neighbors to being friends, and from friends to being family. That's what we're going to do. And and so I've been thinking and praying and working through this and said, what's the easiest way to do this? I said, right now, because there's a virus, just invite somebody to come over and just grill them a hamburger. We'll call it grill and chill. And you know what you do is say, well, look, here's a hamburger on a paper plate. I got gloves on, right? I got my mask, right? We're being safe. We're outside. And here's a bag of chips. I didn't touch them. You can open them and pour them out yourself. And here's a little brownie or a cookie, and it's wrapped up in something, and here you go. And here's the deal. As you start inviting your neighbors and say, like once a month, hey, I'm going to roll the grill out to the front, to the driveway, and y'all want to come over? And I just was trying to get to know people. And that first time they come over, you don't say a word about church. If you want to wear your really cool Grill and Chills t-shirts, you can do that. But you don't have to. And don't say, hey, I got you here to invite you to church, or hey, I got you here because not everybody's here. I want to preach to you for a minute. No, I'm just going to build relationships. I want to get to know them. It all starts with praying for the people in your neighborhood, walking around and praying for people in your neighborhood, prayer walking. That's what we call that. And so you're praying for them. You're saying, God, would you send us people? And maybe you text people. Maybe you take a card and stick it in their door jam. We've got door hangers. You can just hang on their door and say, hey, we're cooking burgers on Thursday night at 6 o'clock. You want to come grab one? No strings attached. Just trying to get to know some people. They come, they show up. You get their name. Maybe you get their telephone number from them so you can text them. You can pray for them. And so you're starting to think, okay, this is what I'm going to do because we're going to reach our neighbors. We're going to go from being strangers to neighbors, to friend, to family. And you don't have to call it a grill and chill. You can call it a cookout in the cul-de-sac or a party on the patio or a backyard burger bash or a front yard feast or dinner on the deck or just we're eating. Call it whatever you want to. I don't care. You may think grill and chill's dumb because that's what DQ has, these little low-rent restaurants. I don't want to call it. Fine, whatever. I don't care. I'll tell you everything about how to do this next Sunday. We got neighboring training Sunday, August 30th, 2020, here in Noonan at 12:30. I'm gonna feed you lunch. Okay, you know what I'm gonna do? Just like we're gonna do it in your yard, right? There's gonna be hamburgers, there's gonna be some chips, there's gonna be something, some kind of little sweet thing to eat, and something to drink. And then I'm gonna do it right here next Sunday in Noonan at 12:30, and in LaGrange, I'll be there at 5:30 that afternoon, and we'll do it again in LaGrange. But here's the deal. You have to sign up today. You have to sign up today because you know what we have to do? We got to get food, get the right food delivered so we've got stuff and ready to take care of everybody next Sunday. And also got to order T-shirts. And we don't have much lead time on T-shirts. Okay? So you need to sign up today. You can get your phone out right now and you can go to southcrest.church/events. Or if you're following along with me in the sermon notes, southcrest.church/today, there's a link right there and go hit it. Sign up and be here next Sunday. Because check this out. We're going to look at a strategy of how we can connect people to Jesus and to one another. And what if God's plan for Southcrest is bigger than the size of our campuses? What if our plan has always been, let's fill up this room. Let's fill up this campus. Let's fill up LaGrange. What if that's been our plan and God's plan is bigger? See, here's what we could do. I mean, we could jam pack. We could do a lot of services on Sunday. And I think in Noonan, I think we could have probably 5,000 people here on a Sunday. I think in LaGrange, we could have 1,500 people there on a Sunday. So that's 6,500 people. Like, woo, that's awesome. That's incredible. But what about the other 273,000 people in Troup and Coweta County that won't fit in the building? What if we had a strategy, and I'll share the details with you next week, of how we could go reach every single person in Coweta and Troup counties? You want to make a difference that lasts for eternity? I do. What if the number of people that God has called us to reach won't fit into a room? No matter what size room or how many campuses we build, we can't fit all those people in a stadium. What if God's got a bigger purpose for us? Because listen, if the size of our vision shrinks to the size of a room we can fill, we have missed our mission. We have screwed up. This is why for 21 days I've been saying, hey, let's pray big prayers. Let's pray big, ginormous, gargantuan prayers. Something that we can see God move in our lives that goes on for generations. Why not? Somebody's got to do this. Why can't it be us? I am not going to sit here and wait and see how long does it take for people to show back up after the virus subsides. I'm not going to do it. I hope you're not going to do it either. Because right now there are people who are lost, discouraged, afraid, hurt, terrified, and they're just out there. And they're within walking distance of our homes. So why not? Man, God, let it be us. God, let it be us. So sign up today so I can tell you the rest of the details next Sunday. You put that last slide up. Just as a reminder, there's times where we sign up, okay? Will you do this? I think God has already called us to this, has birthed the vision in us. Let's go do it. Let's go. Will you pray with me?